The bridge of the warship was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines. Jake Morrison stood near the big window, looking out at the destroyed colony floating in space. Pieces of buildings drifted past. Broken furniture tumbled slowly in the darkness. He saw a child's toy bear spinning among the wreckage, and his hands formed into fists. 3,000 people had lived on New Terra Colony just yesterday. Now they were all dead. The aliens called the Zrakoth had blown up the entire settlement without any warning. This was the 4th time they had killed humans in the past 6 months. Each time they sent the same message afterward. They said humans were weak. They said humans did not belong in this part of space. They said humans should go back to Earth or die. Sophie Davis walked up to Jake with a small computer tablet in her hands. She was a young officer with red hair tied back in a tight bun. Her face looked tired and sad. She had seen too much death in recent months, just like everyone else on the ship. "Commander Morrison, Earth wants to talk to you right away. The big council is meeting in 1 hour. They need you to tell them what happened here," Sophie said quietly. Jake nodded but did not look away from the window. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He had fought in wars on Earth before humans went to the stars. He thought he had seen the worst that intelligent beings could do to each other. But watching colonies full of families get wiped out for no good reason was something different. It made him feel cold inside. "Tell them I will be ready," he finally said. His voice sounded flat and emotionless, but Sophie knew him well enough to hear the anger hiding underneath. Far away on Earth, deep under the ground in Geneva, the United Earth Council was gathering. The room was built like a half circle with seats going up in rows. Screens covered the walls showing maps of human colonies in space. Little red marks showed where attacks had happened. There were too many red marks now. President Nicole Harper walked to her seat at the front of the room. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Behind her came military leaders in their uniforms and diplomats in their formal clothes. Everyone looked serious. The time for normal meetings was over. Nicole sat down and looked around at all the council members. These were the people who led Earth and all its colonies. They came from every continent and represented billions of humans. Usually they argued about laws and money and trade agreements. Today they had to make a much harder choice. "We have lost 12,000 citizens in 6 months, Nicole began. Her voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel in it. "The Zrakoth think we will keep begging for peace. They think we will keep asking them nicely to stop killing us. They think humans are weak and stupid." She pressed a button and the screens changed. Now they showed pictures of weapons. Strange weapons that looked like nothing any other aliens in the galaxy used. The designs were complex and frightening even to the generals who understood such things. General Frank Cooper was an old soldier with white hair and scars on his face from wars fought long ago. He stood up and pointed at the screens. "Project Requiem is finished. We built these weapons in secret over the past 10 years. The other alien races do not know they exist. Each one can destroy an entire planet or star system. We have enough of them to end the Zrakoth completely." The room became very quiet. Some council members looked shocked. Others looked sick. A few looked relieved that humanity finally had real power. Everyone understood what was being suggested. They could stop being victims. But the cost would be terrible. A woman named Lisa Chen raised her hand. She was the representative from the Asian colonies and believed strongly in peaceful solutions. "Are we really talking about killing billions of aliens? That would make us worse than them. That would make us monsters." Frank shook his head slowly. "We have tried peace for 6 months. We have tried negotiations and treaties and offering them things they want. They respond by killing more of our people. They laugh at our diplomats. They think mercy means weakness." Another council member, a man named Carlos Rivera from South America, spoke up. "But genocide? Wiping out an entire species? How do we live with ourselves after that?" Nicole stood again and everyone got quiet. "I do not want to kill billions of aliens. The thought makes me feel sick. But I have a bigger responsibility. I have to protect humanity. Our children are dying in space. Our colonies are being destroyed. If we do nothing, the Zrakoth will keep killing us until we give up and go back to Earth. And then other aliens will see that they can push us around too." She paused and looked each council member in the eyes one by one. "I am not saying we should attack them right now. I'm saying we give them one final warning, one last chance to stop. We tell them exactly what will happen if they hurt us again. We show them we are not weak, and if they ignore that warning, then we do what we promised." Admiral Chris Bennett put his hand on the table. He was the head of all Earth military forces in space. We send a message that cannot be misunderstood. We tell the Zrakoth that one more attack means total war, not a war to defeat them, not a war to take their territory, a war to erase them from history completely. If they kill one more human after that warning, we make their entire civilization disappear. The council talked for 3 more hours. Some members argued against such a harsh position. Others said it did not go far enough. People yelled and debated and made passionate speeches. But in the end, they voted. The decision was not unanimous, but it was clear. Humanity would give the Zrakoth one ultimatum. Nicole stood one more time as the meeting ended. We will send our best diplomat to their command ship. He will deliver the message in person so there is no confusion. He will tell them they have 72 hours to withdraw from all disputed space and pay for the damage they caused. If they attack us again after that deadline, we activate Project Requiem. She looked at the screen showing all the red marks where humans had died. We tried to be good neighbors in this galaxy. We wanted to explore and learn and make friends with other species. The Zrakoth decided we were easy targets. They are about to learn the most important lesson about humanity. We can be the best friends you ever have or the worst enemy you can possibly imagine. There is no middle ground anymore. The council members left the underground chamber in silence. Each one knew they had just made a decision that would change human history forever. Some felt it was the right choice. Others worried they had just started down a dark path. But all of them agreed on one thing. The galaxy needed to learn that humanity would not be pushed around anymore. Up on the warship, Jake received new orders. He read them twice to make sure he understood. Then he called his senior officers together and told them to prepare for possible combat. Big combat, the kind that would be written about in history books for centuries. Sophie looked at the orders on her screen and then looked at Jake. Are we really going to do this, sir? Are we really going to threaten to destroy an entire alien civilization? Jake looked back out the window at the destroyed colony. At the toy bear still floating in the darkness. They already started this fight. We are just going to finish it if they do not stop. Sometimes you have to show monsters that you can be a bigger monster. Otherwise, they never leave you alone. The warship turned and started moving toward the nearest jump point. Soon a human diplomat would deliver the most important message in human history. An ultimatum with no room for compromise. Stop attacking us or stop existing. It was that simple and that terrible. Part 2. Peter Walsh had been a diplomat for 30 years. He had negotiated trade deals and peace treaties on Earth and on a dozen colony worlds. He had talked to aliens from 6 different species and learned their customs and languages. He thought he had seen everything. But standing in the transport bay getting ready to beam over to an alien warship full of creatures who hated humans was something new. The captain of the transport ship, a young woman named Kelly Price, checked the teleporter controls one more time. Ambassador, are you sure about this? The Zrakoth have killed diplomats before. They might decide to kill you just to make a point. Peter adjusted his formal jacket and picked up the small silver briefcase that held the message crystal. If they kill me, it will just make Earth angrier. But I do not think they will. They are arrogant, not stupid. They will want to hear what I have to say so they can laugh at it. Kelly did not look convinced, but she nodded. Good luck, sir. We will be watching on sensors. If anything goes wrong, we will try to get you out. Peter stepped onto the teleporter pad. The machine hummed and his body dissolved into light. A second later, he reformed on the bridge of the Zrakoth command ship. The air smelled strange, like sulfur and metal. The walls were dark red and covered in sharp angles. Zrakoth did not care about making their ships comfortable. The aliens on the bridge all turned to look at him. Zrakoth were big creatures, almost 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and 4 eyes. Their skin was thick and bumpy like lizard scales. When they talked, their mouths opened sideways, showing rows of sharp teeth. They looked at Peter the way a human might look at an annoying insect. The biggest Zrakoth sat in a command chair that looked more like a throne. This was High Commander Threzkar, the leader of this battle fleet. He had led the attacks on 3 human colonies personally. Intelligence reports said he enjoyed watching human settlements burn. Another human come to beg, Threzkar said. The translator device on Peter's collar turned the alien sounds into English words. Your people should have stayed in your small corner of space. This galaxy belongs to the strong. Peter walked forward calmly, even though his heart was beating fast. He had to do this right. One mistake and Earth might lose its only chance to stop a war. High Commander, I'm Ambassador Peter Walsh representing the United Earth Council. I bring an official message that requires your immediate attention. Threskar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, which Peter knew meant the alien was amused. A message? Let me guess. You want us to stop attacking your weak colonies. You offer us something worthless in exchange for peace. You think words will save you. The other Zrakoth on the bridge made clicking sounds with their mouths. Peter realized they were laughing. They thought this was funny. They thought he was pathetic. No, Peter said firmly. This is not a request. This is an ultimatum. Humanity has shown restraint while trying to negotiate peace. That restraint has ended. I am here to tell you exactly what will happen if you attack us again. Now Threscar looked more interested. He leaned forward in his chair. Is the little human threatening me? Threatening the Zrakoth Collective? We have 400 star systems. We have thousands of warships. You have a few dozen colonies and a tiny fleet. What could you possibly threaten us with? Peter opened his briefcase and took out the message crystal. It was a small blue cube that glowed softly. He walked up to the command console and set it down carefully. This contains technical specifications for 3 human weapon systems. We are sharing this information so you understand we are serious. I suggest you have your scientists analyze it carefully. Threscar grabbed the crystal with one of his 4 hands. Weapon specifications? You think showing us your guns will scare us? He handed it to another Zrakoth who put it into a computer. Peter took a deep breath. This was the important part. He had practiced these words 100 times on the trip here. The United Earth Council has authorized me to deliver the following message. Any further military action against human colonies, ships, or citizens will result in the complete elimination of the Zrakoth Collective. You will not be defeated. You will not be conquered. You will be erased from history. Your homeworld will be destroyed. Your people will be dead. Your civilization will be gone as if it never existed. The clicking laughter started again, louder this time. The Zrakoth could not believe what they were hearing. A human, from a species they considered barely advanced enough to leave their own planet, was threatening to wipe them out completely. Threscar stood up from his chair. He was huge, towering over Peter. You think you can destroy us? The Zrakoth have existed for 10,000 years. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. What makes you think your pathetic species could even hurt us? Peter did not step back or show fear. He kept his voice level and cold. We are giving you 72 hours. In that time, you will withdraw all military forces from disputed territories. You will provide reparations for the colonies you destroyed and the people you killed. If you do these things, we will negotiate a permanent peace treaty. If you do not, or if you attack any human target after this deadline, we will activate our response protocols. He pointed at the crystal. That data is real. Our scientists are not lying. Those weapons exist and they work exactly as described. We built them in secret over the past decade specifically for this situation. We hoped we would never need to use them. But if you force our hand, we will use every single one. Threscar moved closer, trying to intimidate Peter with his size. You are either brave or stupid, human. Maybe both. Do you understand what you are saying? You are declaring war on a power that could crush Earth itself. No, Peter replied. I am giving you a chance to survive. Earth does not want war. We want peace, but we will not be pushed around anymore. We will not watch our people die while we beg you to stop. The choice is yours. Make peace or make us your enemy. But understand this clearly. If we become your enemy, you will not survive it. The Zrakoth at the computer terminal suddenly made an alarmed noise. He was looking at the data from the crystal. His scales changed color, getting lighter, which Peter knew meant the alien was frightened. Commander, you need to see this data. These weapon designs are real. The mathematics is correct. If humans actually built these things, they could destroy our entire home system with a single ship. The laughter stopped. Threscar walked over to look at the data himself. Peter watched as the alien's confidence started to crack. The weapons Earth had shown them were terrifying. Matter compression bombs that could make a star collapse, quantum disruptors that tore apart molecules, and the Cascade Annihilator, which could trigger chain reactions across multiple planets at once. But Threscar was proud. He had built his reputation on strength and victory. Backing down from a human threat would make him look weak. This data could be fake, created to scare us. The scientist shook his head. It is not fake, Commander. I have checked it 3 times. These weapons violate what we thought was possible, but the science is sound. If they exist, we are in serious danger. Peter saw his opening. They exist. We have them on ships positioned near all your major systems. They are not active yet, but if you attack us again, they will be. You have 72 hours to decide. Choose peace and live. Choose war and die. It really is that simple. He walked back to the transport pad before Threeskar could respond. I am returning to my ship now. Your answer is due in 3 days. I hope you make the right choice. The transporter activated and Peter disappeared in a shimmer of light. Back on the transport ship, Kelly ran over to him. Ambassador, how did it go? Are you okay? Peter sat down heavily. His legs were shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off. I delivered the message. I think they heard it. Whether they believe it is another question. What do you think they will do? Peter looked out the window at the Zrakoth command ship. I think they are too proud to back down. I think they will test us to see if we are bluffing. And then they will learn that humanity does not bluff. On the Zrakoth ship, Threeskar stared at the weapon specifications. His scientists were arguing about whether the data was real. His military officers wanted to attack immediately to show strength. His political advisors suggested caution. Everyone had an opinion. Finally, Threeskar made his decision. We are Zrakoth. We do not bow to threats from inferior species. We will show these humans what real power looks like. Prepare the fleet. We attack their colony on Sanctuary Prime in 48 hours. Let us see if they have the courage to follow through on their ultimatum. His second-in-command looked worried. But Commander, what if their weapons are real? What if they can do what they claim? Threeskar's mandibles spread in what passed for a smile. Then we will deal with that problem after we prove they are bluffing. No species develops such weapons without the entire galaxy knowing. They are trying to scare us with lies. I will not be intimidated by humans. The order went out to the fleet. 40 warships would attack Sanctuary Prime, the largest and most successful human colony. They would destroy it completely to show Earth that ultimatums meant nothing. The Zrakoth were convinced they were calling humanity's bluff. They were about to discover they were very, very wrong. Part 3. Helen Crawford was teaching a biology class when everything changed. She stood at the front of the classroom with a hologram showing the life cycle of native plants from Sanctuary Prime. 20 students sat at their desks watching and taking notes. Some were human teenagers. Others were young aliens from friendly species who came to study at the colony university. Sanctuary Prime was humanity's pride. 40,000 people lived there. They had spent 15 years turning a rocky planet into a beautiful world with forests and rivers and fields of crops. The colony had schools and hospitals and parks where families walked on sunny afternoons. It was proof that humans could build something good among the stars. The alarm started as a low wailing sound. Helen stopped talking and looked up at the ceiling speakers. The students looked around confused. They had practiced emergency drills before, but this sounded different. More urgent. Everyone stay calm, Helen said, even though her own heart was starting to pound. Let us move to the emergency shelter like we practiced. She led the students out into the hallway. Other teachers were doing the same thing. Hundreds of people were moving quickly but not panicking yet. Then Helen heard the announcement over the speakers. This is not a drill. Multiple hostile ships detected entering orbit. All civilians proceed to shelters immediately. This is not a drill. One of the human students, a girl named Amy, grabbed Helen's arm. Miss Crawford, what is happening? Are we being attacked? Helen did not want to scare the children, but lying would not help. Yes, honey. But we have strong shelters. We will be safe there. Just keep moving. They reached the shelter entrance and Helen counted heads as students went inside. All 20 were there. She was about to follow them when she heard someone shouting her name. It was Paul Martinez, the colony director. He was running down the hallway with his communication tablet in his hand. His face was pale. Helen, get inside now. They are about to start shooting, Paul yelled. Who is attacking us? She asked, but she already knew the answer. Zrakoth, 40 warships. Our defense platforms are trying to fight back, but we are completely outnumbered. Helen ducked into the shelter and sealed the door. Inside, emergency lights gave everything a red glow. People crowded together on benches. Some were crying. Others sat in shocked silence. The children huddled close to the adults. Up in orbit, Paul was broadcasting to the Zrakoth fleet. His voice shook, but he tried to stay calm. Zrakoth vessels, this is Colony Director Paul Martinez. Sanctuary Prime is a civilian settlement. We have no military installations here. We have 40,000 people, including children. Please, there must be some mistake. The response came in the form of a massive alien face on the view screen. Threeskar looked even more frightening on camera. His 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. No mistake, human. Your leaders issued threats against the Zrakoth Collective. We are teaching you the cost of such arrogance. Witness what happens when weak species pretend to be strong. But the ultimatum said you had 72 hours. Paul said desperately, "It has only been 48. We gave you time to withdraw peacefully." Threeskar's mandibles clicked together. "We do not need time to consider threats from humans. We respond with power. Your colony dies today. Let your Earth Council see what happens when they challenge us." The first weapons fire came down from orbit. Massive beams of plasma energy struck the northern part of the colony. Buildings that had stood for a decade simply vaporized. 3,000 people died in the first 5 seconds. The ground shook so hard that people in the shelters were thrown off their feet. Helen held on to Amy and 2 other students as another blast hit nearby. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Through the thick walls, they could hear the muffled sounds of destruction outside. The world was ending and they could do nothing but wait. But something else was happening in space that the Zrakoth did not know about yet. Every human military ship within 10 light years was changing course. They were all heading for Sanctuary Prime as fast as their engines could push them. And from Earth, a message was broadcasting on every frequency that every species in the galaxy monitored. President Nicole Harper appeared on screens in alien councils and command centers across hundreds of worlds. Her face showed no emotion. Her voice was steady and cold as ice. The Zrakoth Collective has violated the terms of our ultimatum. They have attacked Sanctuary Prime, a civilian colony, before their deadline expired. They have murdered thousands of innocent people, including children. They were warned. They were given a clear choice. They chose destruction. She paused for just a moment. To all species listening to this broadcast, what you are about to witness is not an act of aggression. It is the fulfillment of a promise. Humanity told the Zrakoth exactly what would happen if they attacked us again. They did not believe us. They will believe us now. Let history record that we gave them every possible chance for peace. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, alien leaders looked at each other in confusion and growing fear. Some did not believe humans could back up such threats. Others remembered the weapon specifications that had been leaked and started to worry. All of them were about to learn a terrible lesson about humanity. On the warship Defiant, Commander Jake Morrison received the authorization codes. He had been waiting for them, hoping they would never come, knowing they probably would. His crew worked in grim silence. Every person on the bridge understood they were about to participate in the largest act of killing in human history. Sophie Davis was at her station checking and rechecking the weapon systems. Her hands moved over the controls with practiced efficiency, but Jake could see they were shaking slightly. "Commander, all 7 Cascade Annihilators are armed and ready. Target coordinates confirmed. Zrakoth Prime system locked in." Jake took a long breath. This was the moment. Once he gave this order, there was no taking it back.
4 billion aliens would die.
An entire civilization would be crippled. History would remember him as either a hero who saved humanity or a monster who committed genocide. Maybe both. He thought about the toy bear he had seen floating in space at New Terra. He thought about the 3,000 people who had just died at Sanctuary Prime. He thought about all the times humanity had asked nicely for peace and been laughed at. Sometimes the only way to stop a bully was to hit back so hard they never got up again. "Fire," Jake said quietly. Sophie pressed the launch button. 7 missiles, small and deceptively simple-looking, shot out from the Defiant and 6 other human ships. They accelerated to incredible speeds and then vanished into hyperspace. They would reach Zrakoth Prime in less than 2 minutes. The aliens there had no idea they were about to die. At Sanctuary Prime, Threeskar was enjoying himself. His fleet continued to pound the colony from orbit. More plasma beams rained down. Entire city blocks disappeared in flashes of light and heat. He could see the tiny defense platforms trying to shoot back, but they were like insects buzzing around his ships. Annoying but harmless. "Commander, we are receiving reports of human military vessels approaching," one of his officers reported. Threeskar waved a hand dismissively. "Let them come. We will destroy them too. By the time they arrive, this colony will be nothing but dust and ash." Another officer suddenly shouted from his station, "Commander, We are detecting massive energy signatures in our home system. Something just appeared in Zrakoth space. Multiple somethings. Threzkar turned away from the window showing Sanctuary Prime burning below. What do you mean? What appeared? The officer was frantically checking his instruments. Unknown devices. 7 of them. They are positioned in a sphere around our sun. They are activating some kind of field. Commander, the energy readings are impossible. Nothing should be able to generate that much power. For the first time, Threzkar felt a cold knot of fear in his stomach. Show me. The view screen changed to show a long-range image of the Zrakoth home system. Their red sun hung in space like it had for billions of years, but now 7 small dots surrounded it. As they watched, the dots began to glow brighter and brighter. In the shelter on Sanctuary Prime, Helen held the children close as another blast shook the building. She was praying to whatever gods might listen that the shelter would hold, that somehow they would survive this, that Earth would send help in time. She had no idea that help had already been sent, but it was not coming to Sanctuary Prime. It was being delivered 400 light-years away, to the homeworld of the creatures who thought they could kill humans without consequences. The Cascade Annihilators were working exactly as designed. They were changing the fundamental forces inside the Zrakoth sun, making it burn faster, making it consume its fuel at an impossible rate. The star that had given life to Zrakoth Prime for billions of years was being killed in minutes. On the surface of Zrakoth Prime, citizens looked up at their sky and saw something that filled them with terror. Their sun was changing color. The red dwarf that had always hung in their sky was getting brighter, turning orange, then yellow, then white. Scientists ran to their instruments but could not understand what they were seeing. The sun was aging 1 billion years in the span of minutes. It was impossible. It violated every law of physics they knew. But it was happening. The temperature started to rise. Buildings that had stood for thousands of... Part 4 Admiral Chris Bennett stood in the orbital command center high above Earth, watching data streams from the Zrakoth system. The numbers were clinical and cold. Temperature readings, atmospheric composition changes, seismic activity, energy output from the dying star. Each data point represented thousands or millions of lives ending, but the computer displays did not care. They just showed facts. A young officer named Ryan Cooper sat at a nearby console. His job was to monitor the Cascade Annihilators and make sure they performed correctly. He was good at his job, but right now his face was gray and he looked like he might be sick. This was the first time any human had actually used these weapons on a real target. Everyone in the command center knew they were watching genocide happen in real time. "Sir, the star has completed its accelerated evolution," Ryan reported. His voice was steady, but Chris could hear the strain in it. "Zrakoth Prime surface temperature has exceeded survivability limits. All major cities have been destroyed. Oceans have evaporated. We are detecting no life signs anywhere on the planet." Chris nodded slowly. He had expected this result. The weapons were designed to be thorough, but knowing something intellectually and watching it actually happen were very different things. What about the other planets in that system? 2 of them are experiencing extreme climate disruption from the stellar changes. The Zrakoth had mining colonies there with about 50,000 people total. They are sending out distress calls, but most of their evacuation ships were destroyed when the star expanded. Estimated survival rate is less than 5%. So not just 4 billion on the homeworld. Another 50,000 would die on the colony planets. Chris wondered at what point the numbers got so big they stopped meaning anything. Was there a difference between killing 4 billion and 4,050,000? Did those extra 50,000 matter less because they were smaller numbers? Every one of them was a living being with families and hopes and dreams. Now they were all dead because their leaders had been arrogant. "Sir, we are receiving transmissions from the other Zrakoth core worlds," another officer called out. "Their governments are in complete chaos. They are evacuating cities and moving military assets randomly. They do not know if we are going to attack them next." Chris walked over to look at the tactical display. It showed the locations of all major Zrakoth population centers. 17 worlds with populations over 1 billion, hundreds of smaller colonies. Their entire civilization spread across 400 star systems, all of it now terrified because humanity had proven it could erase them whenever it wanted. "Are we targeting any other systems?" the officer asked carefully. "No," Chris said firmly. The president was clear. "We destroy the homeworld only. The rest of their civilization gets to survive if they accept our terms. This was about making a point, not about wiping out everyone. But even as he said it, Chris knew the damage was already done. The Zrakoth economy was built around their homeworld. Their government was centered there. Their culture and history and identity all came from Zrakoth Prime. Without it, their civilization would probably collapse anyway. Maybe not from human weapons, but from internal chaos and civil war as different factions fought over what remained. Across the galaxy, news of what happened spread fast. Alien species that had never even heard of humans before were suddenly paying attention. The major powers called emergency council meetings. Diplomats sent urgent messages to their governments. Everyone wanted to know the same things. Who were these humans? How did they develop such powerful weapons in secret? And most importantly, were they planning to use those weapons on anyone else? On a space station called Unity Point, the Galactic Council was meeting an emergency session. The council chamber was a huge round room with seats for representatives from dozens of species. Usually the meetings were formal and slow, with lots of speeches and procedural rules. Today everyone was shouting at once. The chairman, a being made of pure energy called a Luminara, had to use sound amplification to get everyone quiet. Order, we must have order. The human delegation has requested to address this council. They are en route now. A reptilian ambassador from the Sarnak hegemony stood up angrily. The humans murdered 4 billion Zrakoth civilians. This is the worst act of genocide in 10,000 years. They must be punished. Sanctions at minimum. Military action if necessary. But another voice disagreed. This was from the Valorian Commonwealth, a species that had fought wars with the Zrakoth before. The Zrakoth attacked human colonies repeatedly. They killed thousands of civilians. They ignored diplomatic warnings. The humans told them exactly what would happen and gave them chances to stop. The Zrakoth chose to keep attacking. That does not justify wiping out an entire planet, the Sarnak representative argued. There are rules of war, lines that should never be crossed. The humans crossed every line. A few of the council members who had access to intelligence reports looked uncomfortable. They had seen the weapon specifications that Peter Walsh had shown the Zrakoth. They knew humanity possessed the ability to do far worse things if they wanted. The destruction of one planet might actually be restraint compared to what humans could have done. The chamber doors opened and the human delegation walked in. Ambassador Peter Walsh led the group, looking tired but composed. Behind him came military advisors and technical experts. They took their seats in the section reserved for humanity, and every eye in the chamber watched them. Then President Nicole Harper herself entered the room. She had traveled from Earth personally to address the council. This was unprecedented. Earth leaders almost never came to Galactic Council meetings. The fact that she was here meant this was more serious than anyone had realized. Nicole walked to the speaking platform in the center of the chamber. She did not look apologetic or defensive. She looked like someone who had made a hard choice and was prepared to live with it. The room became silent as she began to speak. Members of the Galactic Council, I am Nicole Harper, President of United Earth. I am here to explain what happened at Zrakoth Prime and why. I will not apologize because humanity has nothing to apologize for, but I will tell you the truth. She activated a holographic display showing the timeline of Zrakoth attacks on human colonies. Over 6 months, the Zrakoth Collective destroyed 4 of our settlements. 12,000 humans died, men, women, children. We attempted diplomatic solutions. We offered trade concessions. We proposed border agreements. Every offer was rejected with mockery. The Zrakoth told us repeatedly that humans were weak and did not belong in this galaxy. The hologram changed to show Peter Walsh delivering the ultimatum on the Zrakoth command ship. We gave them a final warning, a clear statement of consequences. We even showed them technical data on our weapons so they would know we were serious. We gave them 72 hours to withdraw and make peace. They had every opportunity to avoid what happened. Now the hologram showed Sanctuary Prime under attack. They responded by attacking our largest colony before the deadline expired. They killed 3,000 more civilians, including children. They did this deliberately to prove they did not fear human threats. They were wrong. Nicole's voice became harder. Zrakoth Prime was destroyed by weapons humanity developed in secret over 10 years. We built them because history taught us that there will always be species who mistake kindness for weakness, who believe that a desire for peace means inability to fight. The Zrakoth learned otherwise. She looked around at all the alien faces watching her. Some looked angry. Some looked frightened. All of them were paying very close attention now. I am here to make something clear to this council and every species in the galaxy. Humanity does not want to be your enemy. We want to trade with you, learn from you, build friendships with you. We came to the stars hoping to find kindred spirits among the intelligent races we met. But, she continued, her voice rising, we will not be victims. We will not sit quietly while others murder our people. We will not beg for mercy from bullies and tyrants. Any species that attacks humanity will face consequences that are absolute and final. This is not a threat. It is simply a fact. Nicole activated another hologram. This one showed weapon systems even more advanced than what had destroyed Zrakoth Prime. Things that could shatter entire star clusters. Devices that could tear holes in space itself. Weapons that made the Cascade Annihilators look gentle by comparison. The council members stared in growing horror. These are some of the other weapons humanity has developed, Nicole said quietly. We have the capability to destroy civilizations, collapse stars, and sterilize whole regions of space. We could cause damage on a scale this galaxy has never seen, but we do not want to use them. The death of Zrakoth Prime weighs heavily on every human who knows about it. 4 billion lives lost is a tragedy that will haunt us for generations. She turned off the hologram. So humanity offers the galaxy a choice. We can be your partners and allies. We will share technology for peaceful purposes. We will contribute to galactic society with our science and culture and art. Or if you choose to see us as enemies, if you choose aggression, you will face an enemy more terrible than any you have imagined. The choice is yours. The Sarnak representative stood up again. You cannot threaten the entire... Part 5. 3 months had passed since the day Zrakoth Prime died. The galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality. Humanity was no longer seen as weak newcomers struggling to survive among the established powers. Now they were feared, respected, and watched very carefully by every other species. Helen Crawford stood in the rebuilt section of Sanctuary Prime, watching construction crews work on new buildings. The colony had survived the attack, but large parts of it were still damaged or destroyed. The northern district where 3,000 people had died was being turned into a memorial park. Helen visited it often to remember the students and colleagues she had lost. Today was different, though. She was supervising a work crew that included 3 young Zrakoth. They had volunteered to come to Sanctuary Prime to help rebuild. It was part of their species' attempt to make amends for what their military had done. Helen watched them carefully as they carried materials and helped pour foundations for new structures. One of the young Zrakoth, who had told Helen to call him Kresh, approached her nervously during a break. He was barely into adulthood by his species' standards, maybe the equivalent of 20 human years. His scales were lighter colored than older Zrakoth, and his 4 eyes looked at her with obvious guilt. Dr. Crawford, may I speak with you? Kresh asked quietly through his translator device. Helen nodded and walked with him away from the worksite. They stood near the edge of the memorial park, looking at the empty space where buildings and people had once been. What is on your mind, Kresh? The young alien was quiet for a moment, as if gathering courage. I wanted to say I am sorry for what my people did to your colony, for what happened to your students. I know sorry is not enough. Words are meaningless against such actions, but I need you to know that not all Zrakoth supported what our military did. Helen felt a complicated mix of emotions. Part of her was still angry at all Zrakoth for the attack, but looking at this young person trying so hard to make things right, she could not hold on to that anger. I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you coming here to help rebuild. That takes courage. Kresh's mandibles trembled slightly. My cousin lived on Zrakoth Prime. She was a teacher like you. She had 3 children. They all died when your people destroyed our homeworld. I'm angry about that. But I am also angry at my own leaders for causing this to happen. They were warned and they did not listen. 4 billion of my people died because our commanders were too proud to believe humans were serious. I am sorry for your loss too, Helen said, and she meant it. This whole situation is tragic. So many people dead on both sides because leaders could not find a way to peace. They stood together in silence for a while, 2 beings from species who had just tried to destroy each other. Both mourning, both trying to find a way forward. Finally, Kresh spoke again. Do you think our people can ever truly have peace? Or will there always be this hate between us? Helen thought about her students who had died in the attack. She thought about the 4 billion Zrakoth who had burned when their son was killed. She thought about all the pain and loss and anger. I do not know, but I know that hate only creates more hate. Someone has to choose to break that cycle. Maybe it starts with people like us working together to build instead of destroy. Kresh nodded slowly. I hope you are right. I hope my cousin's children did not die for nothing. I hope this teaches both our species to find better ways to solve problems. On Earth, President Nicole Harper was preparing to step down from her position. She had served through the most difficult period in human history among the stars, and the weight of it showed on her face. The lines around her eyes were deeper now. Her hair had gone from gray to white. She looked much older than she had just 6 months ago. She sat in her office one last time, recording a final message to be preserved in historical archives. Future generations would study this period and try to understand the choices that were made. Nicole wanted them to hear the truth directly from her. To whoever watches this in the future, she began, I want you to know that ordering the destruction of Zrakoth Prime was the hardest decision of my life. 4 billion people died because of that order. Children, families, innocent people who had nothing to do with their military's decisions. That weight will be on my soul until the day I die. She paused, gathering her thoughts. But I would make the same choice again if I had to. My first responsibility was to protect humanity. The Zrakoth were killing us and showed no signs of stopping. Diplomatic solutions had failed. They viewed our restraint as weakness. The only way to stop them was to show such overwhelming force that they had no choice but to back down. Some people call me a hero for saving humanity from an aggressive enemy. Others call me a monster for committing genocide. I think both are probably right. War turns everyone into monsters. The only question is whether you become the kind of monster who protects their people, or the kind who destroys them. I chose to protect humanity, even though it cost me my humanity in the process. Nicole looked directly at the camera. I hope your time does not have these same problems. I hope you have found better ways to handle conflicts between species. I hope the weapons we built are gathering dust in museums, never to be used again. But if you do face similar threats, remember this. Being peaceful does not mean being weak. Being kind does not mean being helpless. Sometimes the only way to keep peace is to show you are capable of terrible war. She ended the recording and sat back in her chair. In a few hours, she would attend the ceremony where the next president would be sworn in. Then she would retire to a quiet place and try to find some peace with what she had done. She doubted she would ever fully succeed. In space, Commander Jake Morrison was back on the bridge of the Defiant. His ship and crew had been given a long rest period after the events at Zrakoth Prime, but now they were returning to active duty. The human fleet was being reorganized to focus more on exploration and diplomacy, rather than pure military power. Earth wanted to show the galaxy that humanity could be more than warriors. Sophie Davis walked up with a report tablet. She looked much better than she had 3 months ago. The haunted look was gone from her eyes, replaced with something more like cautious hope. Sir, we have received new orders. We are being sent to explore an uncharted system in the Outer Rim. Scientific mission, no combat expected. Jake smiled slightly. That sounds nice for a change. Maybe we can discover something beautiful instead of destroying something. Do you think things will really be different now, Commander? Do you think other species will leave us alone after what we did? Some will, Jake said. Others will test us eventually to see if we are still willing to use those weapons. But I think most have learned the lesson. Nobody wants to end up like Zrakoth Prime. Fear is not the best foundation for peace, but sometimes it is all you have to work with. Sophie looked out the window at the stars. I wonder what future generations will think of us. Will they be ashamed that we killed so many? Or will they be grateful we made the hard choices? Probably both, Jake replied. History is never simple. We did what we thought was necessary. Others will judge whether we were right or wrong. All we can do now is try to live up to the responsibility that comes with having such power. We showed the galaxy we can destroy civilizations. Now we need to show them we can help build them too. The Defiant prepared to jump to hyperspace, heading out toward unknown stars and hopefully peaceful discoveries. Behind them, Earth continued its slow integration into galactic society. Trade agreements were being signed. Cultural exchanges were happening. Human universities welcomed alien students. Alien scientists came to Earth to study human technology. But in secure facilities on dozens of worlds, the weapons remained ready. The Cascade annihilators and devices even more powerful were maintained and upgraded. Human military forces stayed on alert. Everyone hoped the weapons would never be needed again. But nobody was naive enough to disarm completely. The Zrakoth Collective was slowly rebuilding. Without their homeworld, their civilization had fractured into dozens of smaller factions. Some wanted revenge against humanity. Others wanted peace and reconciliation. Civil conflicts broke out as different groups fought over resources and leadership. It would take generations for them to recover if they ever did. Former High Commander Threzkar lived in exile on a minor Zrakoth colony world. He had been stripped of rank and authority, blamed by his own people for the catastrophe he had brought upon them. He spent his days replaying the events in his mind, trying to understand where he had gone wrong. The answer was simple but hard to accept. He had underestimated humanity. He had believed his own propaganda about weak species, and 4 billion of his people had paid the price for his arrogance. One day, Threzkar received an unexpected visitor. Ambassador Peter Walsh appeared at his dwelling, carrying a datapad and looking tired. The human diplomat had requested this meeting through proper channels, stating he wanted to speak with Threzkar privately. They sat in the simple room that had become Threzkar's home. The former commander looked at the human with a mix of hatred and grudging respect. "Why have you come here, human?" "To gloat about your victory." Peter shook his head. "No, I came because I wanted you to understand something." "What happened to Z?"